Kris Wilder. Welcome to Martial Secrets.
I'm Lawrence Kane.
Yes, you are, sir. Hey, today we're going to be talking about what?
Motorhead.
And the crowd.
And the crowd at Motorhead concert. Yep.
Beautiful. We're going to be talking about the kings of mediocrity.
The kings of mediocrity. And at the dojo, we're going to talk about technology, the upside and downside of technology.
Okay, and then we're going to finish out with free space with old men and crimes. Old men. Or is it old men committing crimes, or is it old men and crimes being committed against him? That's what we call in the business a tease, Lawrence.
Oh, you're such a tease, you.
Yeah. Okay, so Motorhead in the crowd. Let me tell you something. I have been to 6 or 7 Motorhead shows, and which, when you think about it, you start totaling stuff up, and you start asking people, oh, what shows have you seen? I've seen a lot of rock shows in my day. I mean,
just for those who don't know, Motorhead is a heavy metal band. So
how can anybody not know? How can anybody not know?
There could be someone.
Okay, all right.
I mean, come on, we have people who read our books who've never eaten bacon.
True. Okay. But anyway, I've been to a lot of shows, and I mean, I've been to a lot of, like heavy shows, like, Zeke and Corrosion of Conformity and Guar. And I mean, I've done a lot of this kind of stuff and everything, but I got to tell you, man, this last Motorhead show, that is a different crowd, man. It's really diverse, because there's young people there, and then there's, kind of some rock people, and then there's other people that, kind of want to see them because they're sort of a rock icon. I mean, they've been at it for 30 odd years, and, it isn't like, Lemmy isn't, in the lexicon and the psyche of
well, it's kind of like seeing Ozzy Osbourne, right?
Yeah,
I mean, same kind of crowd.
So, it's really diverse, but there's an element there that is just, it's like you just want to pull them aside and say, buddy, look at me. Look at my eyes. Look at my eyes. It's just rock and roll. It's not necessarily a good life choice. I've been involved in some mosh pits, like with Guar. I mean, crazy, but everybody knows what's going on, and it's crazy, and it's fun, and it's silly, and people fall down, they slip, they get picked up, this kind of stuff. But man, at Motorhead, I mean, people are banging on one another, and I mean, in a violent way, and
yeah, it's a real difference between the fun, goofy mosh pit thing where, oops, somebody fell, they could get hurt, I'll stop and help them up, and then I'll go back to being crazy, versus the, knock them down, step on their head kind of stuff,
but
right?
It was a weird crowd, and so I'm there with my son, who is bigger than me, and we're down front, and we're just getting banged on. I mean, hard. I'm getting punched, and I'm getting elbowed, and I mean, not just like, oops, that was incidental. I mean, it's like deliberate stuff, and it's like, get out of my way, bang bang, and it's and
it sort of takes the fun out of watching the show.
It did take the fun out of the show, but about halfway through the show, we decided to move back, and we're kind of hanging out between sort of the coat rack and the mixing board and stuff, and I'm seeing people coming in, and it's like, there's probably like 20 minutes left in the show, I think, and I'm seeing people come in that are just like one side of their head shaved. They've got tattoos on their faces. I mean, that you put a tattoo on your face, it's
pretty hard to get a job with a tattoo on your face.
You're not going to work for Microsoft,
No, and they're pretty liberal about dressing.
Yeah. And so anyway, this crowd started coming in, man, and they had a funk about them. I mean, a smell, and it was coming in, and it was like, you know what? I don't think things are going to be. I don't like what's going on. I don't think things are going to be good. So I tapped my kid. I said, listen, they're going to play Ace of Spades. I know they're going to play Ace of Spades. Then they're going to do the good night, and then they'll come back for their encore, right? We're not hanging around for the encore. So they hit Ace of Spades, and we're like out of here. And so I'm walking along with my kid, and he's going, well, geez, Dad, why did we pull out? And it's like, I don't know. I was getting a bad vibe. It didn't look good. It didn't feel good. And he's like, well, maybe those people were going out and smoking and coming back in. And I was like, no, man, there was something else going on. And he kept asking me to qualify it. And I couldn't really qualify it.
But you know what? That's that instinct that saves you. I mean, I used to do, I think everybody realizes I've done stadium security for 25 years, but I've also done a few rock concerts. And after the first, I don't remember which one it was. It was early in the days of rap. It was the first rap concert that I did. It's like, you know what? They are not paying me enough for this. I mean, I've had a lot of fights at the stadium, but it was more of, look, I don't want to conform, or I'm excited about teamwork. I'm not trying to kill you. I'm just trying to get you to do what I want, or get you away from me, or whatever kind of fights, right? I mean, there was the pile of weapons we took off people going to that concert was unbelievable.
What was the weapon of choice?
Mostly knives, but I mean, there were in 25 years we've taken 6 guns off people at the stadium. Mm-hmm. Okay, and all weapons are not allowed in the stadium by state law and all that, and it makes sense. Even if you have a concealed weapons permit, when there's 78,000 innocent bystanders around, if you pull that trigger, you're going to hit somebody. Even if you hit the bad guy, you may hit someone else too, right?
Yeah, and more.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, there were probably at least 40 guns in this venue that had, it was at Tacoma Dome, and I don't know how many people fit in the Tacoma Dome. It's 45, 50,000 maybe.
Yeah.
It's not that big. It's not as big as Husky Stadium. I mean, and I mean, there was this huge pile. I mean, of course they do metal detectors and everything there.
Yeah.
But, it's this huge pile of weapons. I mean, just massive. It was like, it was almost like, comedical. It was kind of like that, the commercial where the fake Dirty Harry kind of cop, and he starts pulling all these weapons.
Yeah.
It's like that, but for real.
Wow.
And it's like, I ain't doing this. And when you're working security, you have to run towards whatever thing's going bad, right? That's your job.
Yeah.
But when you're not, if you're not a law enforcement officer, you're not a security guard, you're not in the military, whatever,
run away.
You can leave. And if you get that, something's wrong here, even if that's your feeling is incorrect, you're a hell of a lot better off leaving. And I mean, maybe you hear another song and you get your head bashed in, or maybe you miss a song and you get to go home and drink a beer afterwards.
What the funny thing is that you never know what kind of violence you avoided.
That's right.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. But you know what? When you get that feeling, it's easy to say, hey, I'm getting this weird vibe about this guy. I don't like it, but I don't want to be rude. I don't want to be impolite. But you know what? Better off just walking away.
Yeah, and it was a weird crowd, and like I said, I've been to I don't know, the Motorhead
you've been
crowds
sprayed
are
with fake blood at Guar. I mean, that had to be a pretty bad crowd to have you get that. Something was definitely going on because you hang out with that kind of stuff.
It was something else. Yeah, that's for true. It just was a bad vibe that night.
Yeah, but that's a good point about situational awareness, right? It's not just out in the street, going down the dark alley, or hanging out at the wrong bar. It could be anywhere. And there's a bunch of security guys working that show, but that doesn't mean that you hang out when you know something bad's going to happen. Because let's face it, even if they're 10 feet away, there's a crowd to get through to stop something, and an awful lot can happen in a few seconds.
Agreed. We're going to take a little bit of a divergent trip underneath the idea of training tips. In fact, I don't even know if you'd really call this a training tip or not, but it's about the kings of mediocrity, and it's just going to be a little bit of a rail about how today's world accepts mediocrity. And my contention is, Lawrence, is that mediocrity is accepted and tolerated.
I'd almost say it's encouraged.
Yeah, by bureaucracies and so forth. Now, let me build this bridge here. We're going to talk about this, but I also, when we're talking about this, I want people to think about, their martial arts training, whether they're going to a dojo, mixed martial arts, whatever they're doing. I want you to really kind of extrapolate the sense of bureaucracy and incompetency and regression to the mean that occurs in the world today, and then, bring that to the dojo and say, I'm not going to be that way.
We'll get in more into the just general mediocrity thing. But if you think about it, would you expect any of your students to go through the kind of training you did 30 years ago?
I would hope
and stay?
I would hope that they would.
You'd hope that they would, but the odds
I'm
are
better
not.
for it.
Yeah.
I'm better for it. But I don't know that I don't know that they would.
There's a reason why McDojos are popular, right? Because you don't have to do that stuff.
Oh, good point.
I mean?
I see what you're saying. Sure.
Yeah. I think, of course
Well,
I'm a
as
little
you know,
cynical,
some of the stuff kind of bordered on a little crazy.
Well, yeah, but so updated to avoid the crazy stuff that's going to damage your joints and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I'm
not opposed to crazy. I like crazy to a certain degree. I don't like dangerous crazy, but
Yeah.
I like commitment crazy.
Yeah, commitment crazy good, karate baka, right? Dangerous crazy not good. But so back onto the mediocrity thing. I mean, here's an example, right? So I got ticked off at my real job. As they promoted somebody that I felt was not as good as I was. So I started looking for a new job. And I actually had an offer for...
You're a bitter man, Lawrence, a bitter man.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was a good thing, actually, in the long run. But I had 2 job offers when I started looking around. One was to go to a different division of the same company. Another one was to go to a different company. And the one at the different company was a 20% larger raise. There was a raise involved with both of them. And I would have actually been the controller of an insurance company. It's a pretty big deal job, right?
Yeah.
And a big part of that job was they had all kinds of cost issues. So a big part of the job was to control costs. And so we're there and we're negotiating.
Like that's changed for an insurance company lately.
Well, yeah. Yeah, this was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
But so here I am. I'm negotiating, with these folks for the job. And I'm talking to to their CEO and their head of the HR department. She was a VP and the VP of finance. So we got pretty serious folks in the room, right? And so we get down to something that it's a 20% more bigger pay raise than I would have had if I'd stayed with my company, and some pretty decent benefits and all that. But the company's downtown Seattle. And if you know anything about downtown Seattle, there is no frickin' parking anymore.
No. And by the way, you know that it costs $4 an hour now to park downtown Seattle?
Yeah, that's why I don't go to downtown Seattle.
I do not either. And downtown Seattle has lost my business. That's my bitter, twisted heart. But anyway, more about your story.
More about my bitter, twisted heart. So there are parking garages that are in this building and near this building where it would be something like $160 a month to get a parking permit, right? And so I said, hey, I will take the deal if you will pay for my parking. No, it's not. I mean, $160 a month is not a lot of money, really, but it's sort of the principle thing, right? I'm going to be working long hours. I don't want to be, hunting down my car, and I don't want to, it's a pay cut basically because parking's free at my other job.
Sure.
So they say no. I say, well, why not? It's it's a win-win for everybody. I get to be in the building. I don't have to worry about the weather. I can leave quickly. So on and so forth. I say, well, we'll give you increased salary of the same amount. It's like, wait a minute. If you raise my salary by that amount, I'm still paying taxes off of it, so I'm not getting as much money, right? You can't write it off as a benefit, and so it's a lose-lose for both of us. I mean, I'd love to have a higher salary, but look, the real sticking point is, for me, it's the parking, it's the convenience, it's all these things, and I laid out kind of a business case of why paying for the parking
which
is
is
actually
precisely
a better deal.
what they would be paying you to do, is to make these kinds of arguments and insight.
Exactly. Finding a way to make everybody happy at the lowest possible cost, right? And they wouldn't do it because their policy is, well, the CEO doesn't even have a parking spot paid for. It's like, well, I don't care whether he has a parking spot paid for or not. Why is that policy in place? And they couldn't tell me the answer. It's the policy. It's like, well, look, it's a better deal for me and for you to pay for the parking spot. They wouldn't do it. I walked. They were really pissed. They were really pissed that I wouldn't take a job over a parking spot. But you know what? It made me feel like I did the right thing to take a lower paying job somewhere else, because these guys had a bureaucracy in place that was inflexible. And if they really wanted me to go solve their problems and they couldn't give me a freaking parking spot, I would have been frustrated, and I probably would have gotten fired for hurting somebody.
Right. And the kings of queens of mediocrity reign supreme, because they were unable to break out of their bureaucratic framework and say, wait a minute, this benefits everybody, we all win. But they were hung up on policy.
It's the policy, which they didn't even know why the policy was there in the first place.
Yeah.
The person who wrote that policy, by the way, wouldn't even work there anymore. That's the job I was replacing. Would have been.
Well, you talk about these, well, let's put it this way. Most of corporate America does not reward thinking creatively. They want you to follow a policy. You follow that policy. If you follow that policy and you upset a customer, you're okay because you followed policy.
Right. Bureaucracy is all about not changing. It's about being conservative because, and if it's around good rules, there is some value in bureaucracy. But for the most part, the rules aren't flexible enough to cover the whole range of likely scenarios, and then it becomes dysfunctional.
See, now when we take that attitude and we bring it over to the dojo, I mean, I hope that the school that I've created is one of people who want to ask questions, who want to break rules, who want real answers, are willing to drill down to the bedrock and find out why something is the way that it is, and not necessarily accept it because I tell them that it's so.
Absolutely. Well, I'll give you an example. The reason I started taking karate from you in the first place is I went and took a couple of lessons with some other guy at a free lesson, and I've got an issue where if I make a fist with one hand, with my right hand, and you kind of draw a line across where my fingers are, it's straight. If you make a fist with my left hand and you draw a line across your fingers, it's at an angle.
Oh, you're a freak. I am disgusted by you.
Oh. Isn't that weird? Yeah. So when to actually line my knuckles up properly with my bones and my arm to strike, with my left hand, it's a little different than my right. And it doesn't look quite right. And the guy freaked out because I couldn't make a fist correctly and started yelling at me. This is the guy who has given a free lesson to try to, attract him to go joining the school. The guy was freaking out and yelling at me because I couldn't make a fist the way he wanted me to make a fist during my free lesson.
Awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah. And so, I ended up, this is eons ago, you were teaching at the YMCA at the time. And I thought, I'll try this guy. It's like, wow, this guy's reasonable. He actually has a brain in his head. He's not freaking out because I have to make a fist slightly differently in order to not hurt myself,
Well, and that's the thing is that you have to accommodate for size, you have to compensate for physical abilities and all of those kinds of things. And if you don't, you wind up being just like that bureaucracy that you ran up against that said, oh, we can't do that.
Yeah. It's silly. And especially, if you're running your own school, even if you're part of a larger association, if you're running your own school, it's yours. Why would you set your own bureaucracy up to make you fail?
Oh, good point. Good point. And I have many stories of bureaucracy, and so now I will step into my white hot railing against the post office. My mail starts showing up.
Be careful, they might go postal.
Yeah, ooh, I know.
Sorry.
My mail starts showing up, and it's rolled up into like it's just rolled up, and it's shoved between the handle of the door of the dojo and the glass door. When 18 inches away is the mailbox.
Yeah, that says U.S. mail on it.
And it has my address on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, what's up with that? Because I got the same mailman I've had for 14, 15 years, because I just moved the dojo like 3 blocks.
Yeah.
And so and then I'm only getting deliveries like twice a month. And they're in these lump sums and stuff, and it's like, yeah, this is crazy, And I got tax material that's come in from the city that I got to take care of, and blah. So I take this stuff and I go to the post office. I said, hey, I don't know, did I do something wrong? I mean, did I not fill out something or whatever? Because this is what's happening. And I'm approaching it from that standpoint. And the guy's like, no, we deliver everything. And it's like, yeah, but this stuff's showing up like in lump sums twice a month. And he's like, no, we don't hold back mail. And I said, well, look at this letter right here. This came from the city of Seattle on the 17th. I didn't get it until, the 1st or the 2nd of the next month. And that's when it was postmarked. And he's like, well, we don't hold back mail. And I said,
Yeah.
Is
Look at the envelope.
Yeah, I said, is this your indicia? Is this your cancellation of the sting? He's like, yes, it is. And I said, well, this is when it got delivered. You can see I wrote the date on it, and I'm here today. And he says, we don't hold back mail. And I pause and give it about a 2 Mississippi, and I go, I think you do. And he goes, we don't. That's our policy. We don't. And he said, this one just must have gotten lost. I said, well, let me do this. So I reach into my bag and I present like about 16 or 17 more letters. And I'm thinking, okay, you know, we're in now, so let's start going. And I'm like, and this one, you know, this
is not going to end well.
No, you know, and we know now that it's not going to go well at all. And so I go through and I point out probably about a half dozen of these, you know, that they're somewhere upwards of 2 weeks late. And he looks at me and he goes, we don't hold back mail. And I said, well, somebody is. You know? And of course, his response is he looks at me just straight and says, we don't hold back mail. And I looked at him and I go, so the answer's no. And he kind of gave it about a 1 Mississippi. And then he goes, next. And it was like, okay, I guess we're done here.
Yeah.
So there you go. You know, and
bureaucracy is your friend.
Bureaucracy is your friend. Except you have to take responsibility for your own training, and you got to be creative. You got to pull your head out, and you got to get out there and take it and own it, because that's the only way you're going to progress, and that's the only way you're going to get there. And I would argue this, that no great work of art ever came from a bureaucracy. It came from a singular entity with a vision, and that's the way that you need to be when you're out there training.
You got it.
All right. I think we're done with that railing, aren't we?
I think we are.
It's free space time.
Free space time.
Hey, I just think this is a great story, Lawrence. In East Wenatchee, which is in the central area of Washington State.
I used to go hunting out there.
Yeah, well, it's the apple capital of the world. Did you know that?
No, but I do now.
It is. Wenatchee is the apple capital of the world. Well, anyway, what happened was, this is just a great story. This guy, he's 62. And he's living, you know, with his wife. He's 62. I'm going to guess he's just like most 62-year-old men, probably enjoying life, probably retired. And I'm going to guess he's got a whale of a shop going, you know, off to the side.
That's right.
But what happened here is that, his dogs started barking, right?
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Well, he got woken up by barking dogs, and He looks up in the bedroom doorway. He sees a guy there, and it's not a relative.
Right, and this is. I mean, you know, that is so horror movie cliche to actually see somebody in the bedroom door. Now this guy's 62. You know, so what does he do, Lawrence? What does he do?
Well, he sees that the guy's got a knife, and fortunately for the burglar, he didn't shoot him. He instead disarmed him, put him in a headlock, and held until police came.
Now I got to tell you, this is you know, one of those situations where, like, I'm going to assume that there's only one way out of that bedroom. There's a door, and then there's a window. You know, to get smashed out. Yeah, I mean, you got to have it. It's regulation. Right. But so you're essentially trapped, because I don't know many 62-year-old men that are going to, you know, throw themselves through a window to get out.
Well, and honestly, it takes time to do that.
And
if you turn your back on a guy,
there too.
His wife's there too. Yeah, and if you turn your back on a guy with a knife and take a while to get through a window,
you're taking it.
Yeah, it's not gonna go well unless the guy's not actually trying to hurt you.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, amazingly, this 62-year-old guy disarms him. I mean, hand-to-hand combat in a confined space.
Yeah, disarms the guy half his age. The suspect is 39 years old, and he held him and waited for he had his wife call the police, and officers arrived and took him off to jail. It's you know, it's pretty remarkable when things like that happen, and obviously, you know, we're saying this is a cool story, but we're not saying that this is necessarily something you want to do. I mean,
well,
hand-to-hand against a guy with a knife who's half your age is not necessarily a winning proposition there.
But you know, he really kind of had a choice there, which was to run away from the danger and to cower from it in some means and try to negotiate, or to just run to the danger, and he chose to go towards it.
Yeah, although honestly, personally, I would have used a weapon. But, you know, That's just me.
Well, but then again, I know that your bed can be broken down in approximately 30 seconds and reconstructed into a Laws rocket launcher. So
no,
you built it yourself.
No, but yeah, well, there is that part. But no, it doesn't turn into a Laws rocket launcher. But there is there is a handgun safe built in the headboard.
Yeah, exactly.
And it does open very, very quickly with the right fingerprint lock.
Well, that's and let me say this. You're like, 62-year-old man beats up this 39-year-old guy, all this kind of stuff. I'll tell you something, man. When I was 18, that was kind of the last time I popped off to my dad, and he was 41, 42 at the time, and I'll tell you, man, it was I went out the front door. I didn't even touch the steps on the porch and hit the ground. And ba-boom, and rolled and got up, and then he proceeded to address me in a manner that made it pretty clear that I was about ready to get a beat down if I didn't shape up. And it was like, dang, that old man just chucked me out the house. So, there's a certain level of strength that's attached to that just ornery cuss.
And, absolutely, there is, yeah. And you think about, Wenatchee's not like and I'm stereotyping just a touch, but it's not like downtown Seattle, right? I mean, generally speaking, people out there actually do stuff with their hands.
Oh yeah, no, this is an apple. I mean, it's agriculture. It's it's mercantile, but it's also energy because of the dams and
right.
And aluminum plants and things like that.
Yeah, if you actually keep doing physical stuff, my grandfather. When he was 85 years old, was the oldest person in America at the time to have open heart surgery. And the only reason they did it was because he was in such good shape.
Amazing.
I mean, normally when you're that old, they won't do it.
How long did he live after that?
He would live to be 94, if I remember right.
Good grief.
Yeah, but this guy walked 5 miles a day every day. He worked during the shipyard, during World War II in the shipyards. I mean, I remember he was in his 40s, I think, when he had kids. So he's pretty old, by the time I ever remembered him. And I still remember him having pretty good muscle definition, and my sister and I would he'd make do the bicep thing, and we'd hang off his arms, and he'd walk around. So I mean, this guy was he's a big big Slavic dude, so
that's a good thing. Hey, listen, we're actually over time, Lawrence, and so we got to wrap it up. So for those people that want to get in touch with you, how do they do it? Go to your Amazon author page.
Right. Go to my Amazon author page. That's the easiest thing. And click through to my email. You can also find me at the ymaa.com website, or you can try to remember my email, lakane@ix.netcom.com.
And Kane is spelled the same way as Bob Kane, the creator of Batman, right?
You got it.
Yeah, that's really the only reason I hang around with you. That. And if you want to reach me, Kris Wilder, you can do that by going to the West Seattle Karate website. It's westseattlekarate.com, and you can email me there through the contacts. That's the easiest way to remember it. I'm spread out all over the web, but that's a good place to do it. And until next time,
be safe
and be well.
Nice work.
Hi, this is Kris Wilder from Martial Secrets. Martial Secrets is free, but it's not costless. So tell your friends about Martial Secrets. Your good words are the best endorsement we can have. Also, if you like what you hear, buy one of our books, buy one of our DVDs. We think they're pretty good, and we think you'll find value in them too. As always, we appreciate you listening and your support. You can find us pretty quickly by just going to Amazon.com, typing in Lawrence Kane or Kris Wilder, and you can find all of our books and DVDs there. Thanks for listening, and be well.